Hi, welcome to Healthy Alternatives. I'm your host, Lauren Serven, and tonight's guest is Gary Catania, a local Wethersfield resident. And Gary, you have Gary's Fitness.
That's correct.
Gary's Fitness. Well, you know, fitness is a real no-brainer for a healthy alternative because we all know that we should be moving probably more than we are. So you are here to kind of help explain and motivate and, you know, maybe kind of encourage us to get moving. You know, it's really much in vogue now with the First Lady's activities.
Absolutely.
We were talking about that the other day on the phone, and I think, you know, sometimes people think that they really have to be like the old fitness model, like Arnold Schwarzenegger and the real muscling up in the gym, but that's not really, you know, all there is to fitness.
Absolutely not. Today it's all about getting bodies in motion, getting people to move and get up and about and expend energy and to burn calories.
Burn calories. And, you know, so everyone is unique and everyone has different fitness needs, and not everybody wants to be all buff, right? So,
correct.
So you handle all ranges of, let's just say, physical goals for people.
Yep. I handle anywhere from high school students to my oldest client being 85 years old.
85 years old. That is awesome.
And that person has such a commitment to exercise that it motivates me. It's fantastic.
That's great. So tell us, how did you start doing this with your life? Did you grow up wanting to be a fitness instructor, or is it something that you had a personal experience with fitness and you decided that you would pursue it as a career?
Well, not really. My family is from a member of many law enforcement officers, and my dad's wish was that we would all be police officers. Okay. So I'm one of the only ones in my family.
And we all know they just sit around and eat donuts.
They love us for saying that.
No, really. So you have all law enforcement. Yes. That's interesting.
But about 20 years ago, I really...
Were you a law enforcement officer? Okay.
No. I was the only one that decided not to take that track. So about 20 years ago, I became very serious in trying to help people achieve goals and to perform exercise in a non-threatening environment.
And I think that's important too, non-threatening, because I do think that keeps a lot of people out of gyms and fitness centers.
That's absolutely true, because a lot of people are just intimidated by the fact that, well, when they go to the gym, they don't know how to use the equipment, or they're going to be embarrassed.
Especially if they're just starting out, you know, maybe they're really, you know, far from beso fit, and they're imagining everyone there is, you know, walking around all bulked up or looking very toned. So you can imagine, I wouldn't want to go.
And that's how most people do feel,
Right.
But the truth of the matter is that's really not the case. In most gyms or fitness facilities, people are just learning as they go along. And in that case, there's mistakes that are made, and it's troublesome when they get into a problem on doing an exercise in the improper way and then correcting it.
Well, I have to say, I belonged to a gym several years ago, and you know, I didn't know what to do with any of those machines. So, you know, someone spends a couple minutes with you, right? And then that's it. So I'm like, how many times should I be doing this? You have no idea. And then they have the kind of sharks circling in the gym, you know, the people that are kind of, I don't even know what the relationship is to the facility. Right? I think they're like subcontracted out.
Yes, in a lot of cases.
Right,
they are.
And then they get you for, you know, sign a contract for like $1,500 to get a fitness plan, and it's crazy. And then they keep bothering you, so it was very unpleasant.
Yeah, what happens unfortunately in a lot of gyms today are that trainers have become salespeople. And the true matter of trying to help a person, that's always the job of a trainer. But there is the need to continue on with a client base and support the financial ends of the gyms that trainers are working at. But
So you don't work at a particular facility.
nope,
You have your own facility in your home. So tell us about that.
I do. I have my own facility based in my home, and I have a home occupation permit from the town of Wethersfield that allows me to operate a business from my home, and I see clients on a weekly basis. It's all done on a one-on-one basis, so my attention is directly towards you for a full hour.
So you don't do any group classes.
No group classes. And what I found through the years is that with the one-on-one attention, people respond so much better, especially someone that's afraid of starting to learn how to exercise. And at one point or another, we had to pick up, to learn to exercise, we had to pick up a weight or get on a treadmill or a bike and understand what we need to do. With personal training, the way I offer it, it's done in an unintimidating environment. So I'm easy to get along with.
So you're not like Jillian Michaels.
No, no.
I was watching that last
No.
night, and I was like, how can they?
It-
I'm like, oh my God, they're holding this woman's legs, and she's using her arms on a treadmill. I thought,
It's kind of
crazy.
It's kind of interesting because that show has given the fitness industry some good publicity, but on the other hand, there's some areas of the show that aren't reality.
exactly like those home decorating shows.
Absolutely.
The business I'm in, it's like, people think they can paint their kitchen cabinets in a weekend. It's
Right,
crazy.
right.
Right.
And the problem is that in certain shows, it's created an illusion that things could be accomplished overnight, that there's a silver bullet to losing weight, that type of thing, where there really isn't.
And everybody's unique.
Absolutely.
And it really shouldn't be a contest, should it? I mean, you're talking about your health, right?
Yeah.
It's on the one hand, it is good. It's raising awareness, but I think it's raising it in a sort of in a negative way.
Absolutely. That old saying, no pain, no gain, is no longer really touted by most trainers today.
Really?
Yeah. When we look at what we need to do with individuals, for instance, myself, I tailor a program for each individual that is specifically meant to meet their needs and goals.
Yeah, because everyone would have different goals. Like maybe someone is, they've got the cardiac issues.
Absolutely.
Or now, do you help people recovering from injuries and things like that?
Yes. One of the areas that I specialize in is post-injury. After a person has had an event of some type.
Meaning a bad event.
Right, a bad event. We'll work with their physician or with their physical therapist to make sure that we're performing exercises that need to be done to progress them along the way to recovery.
So now this is something that you have received training in.
Yes.
It's not like, you read a couple of books and you set up Gary's gym in your home. I just want people to know that you've spent a lot of time and energy educating yourself along the way also, which is really, important.
Yeah, the fitness industry is very interesting because when it comes to certifications, in the state of Connecticut, there's no licensing required. Okay. So, unfortunately, if someone wants to become a trainer, they could get on a website over a weekend and attain a certification.
You're kidding me.
Absolutely. In my case, it's taken me a minimum of 2 years to be certified through the American College of Sports Medicine, which is the gold standard in our industry.
Okay.
In addition to that, the hands-on experience over the last 20 years has allowed me the opportunity to become involved in all different types of groups, exercise, and programs that allow me to teach in a way that other trainers don't know how at this point.
Now, how does your approach differ?
Again, we start when the first time...
Individualized.
Yep, the first time that we're meeting with a client, we have what's called a consultation. Okay, and at that consultation, I'll discuss with them what they feel their goals are. And they'll give me information about what they would like to obtain. And then I'll discuss what I feel my goals for that person would be. based on the blending of the two. And sometimes clients' goals are very unrealistic.
Like, really?
Like, for instance, I want to lose 50 pounds in a week because I have a wedding to go to.
Right.
It's just not
like
going to happen.
buy a bigger dress, right?
Right.
Exactly. Right. Yeah.
But, and that's where the real truth of the matter has to shine through with the client.
And I'm sure that's probably a difficult aspect of your job too, Gary.
It's very
right?
hard.
Yeah.
It's very hard because when you're sitting with someone that has made the decision to come to look for help,
and that's probably a big hurdle for a lot of people.
50% of the battle right there that
Yeah.
they've walked through, or they picked up the phone and then walked through the door, telling them that if they want to lose weight safely, it's about 1 pound to 2 pounds a week, safe weight loss. And a lot of clients immediately get discouraged on that. But one thing that needs to be remembered is it didn't take a week or
To
2
gain.
weeks to gain this
If
weight.
it were only true.
Exactly.
We could
Exactly.
Right, right.
And about 90% of the calls that I receive are from people who want to lose weight,
So weight loss.
weight loss.
Now, do you get a lot of body sculpting? That back like maybe 15, 20 years ago, that was really it with gyms.
Sure.
The Jane Fonda.
Oh, yeah.
Is that still a primary focus for a lot of people?
Well, especially with females, it's more toning now. And toning really results with lifting lighter weights, doing more repetitions, more sets. And what I'll find with, in particular, females is that they really want to tone up their arms, their abs, and they're really fixated on that. And
Well, I mean, you can't, go into any store in the magazines. Everyone has,
absolutely.
And now our first lady, besides having biceps, she has
Sure.
bangs now too. So that's
Sure. And her commitment to exercise
exactly.
has
And
been phenomenal.
it looks very nice.
Absolutely.
And everyone wants to be able to wear sleeveless shirts in the
Sure.
summer.
Sure.
Exactly.
But the commitment by an individual is by far what will make or break them. Generally, with a new client, depending upon what their goals are, I'll tell them that it's a 13 to 52-week commitment, depending upon what we want to achieve.
To kind of transform themselves
Yeah.
in the manner that they thought they want to.
Absolutely. And what sets us apart from other trainers, or what sets me apart, is that not only do we have the studio in Weathersfield, but we also do the old-fashioned, what I like to call, doctor's visits.
So I was just going to ask you that if you do home visits.
Yeah, we'll go, and a lot of my clients are...
They have gyms in their home.
They have gyms in their home, some in Weathersfield, some in the Farmington Valley, some, far and about.
So you travel throughout the state.
Yes. And a lot of people like the privacy of their home.
Well, yeah, and especially if they're busy,
Sure.
families working. It's nice to be able to come home and have someone see you.
They're much more comfortable
Saving
with
you
that.
time. It's all time, right, Gary?
Absolutely. And what we try to do is suggest an hour a day for exercise.
Now, an hour a day. Now, that's a fair amount of time.
Yeah. But the latest studies by the American College of Sports Medicine show us now that hour could be broken up into what's called mini sessions.
Okay.
You could do 20 minutes of exercise in the morning, 20 minutes in the afternoon, 20 minutes in the evening. And it would range anywhere from 3 to 5 days a week, depending, again, upon the goals that the client or the individual would like to accomplish.
So, and when you say exercise, is that a combination of movement and what we consider, I think people hear the word exercise and they're thinking sweating, grunting, straining. No pain, no gain.
No,
such as you said.
that's a great question, because all that theory has changed now. Exercise could be in the form of me teaching an individual flexibility. There are certain exercises that, of course, as we age, we become less flexible. So exercise could be termed in the form of flexibility exercises, cardiovascular being treadmill, bike, swimming, elliptical trainer, that type of thing. And of course, strength training using machines or dumbbells or kettlebells, any of those things are really considered exercise.
So that goes back to what I learned, I don't want to say how many years ago, in my health class in college. The 3 components of fitness was strength, flexibility, and they call it endurance.
Sure. Those still hold true to a big degree.
They do.
Yes.
And, I'll never forget the class. My professor has had his PhD. I think he went to Temple. And he was like our age. And very, fit guy. And, he's teaching a class of college freshmen. And he was talking about the goals of fitness. And I remember him saying, so when you come home from work at the end of the day, you're not tired. And we're all looking at each other like, what the heck is he talking about? But, now as you get older, you realize that if you don't pay attention to your fitness, you are tired at the end of the day, and you're lacking energy. So fitness is really enhancing your lifestyle. It's not just, being a jock or, looking good or it's about feeling good too, right, Gary?
So true, because people that have stressful jobs, for instance,
I think any job is stressful, regardless of what you do. Except for you, of course, because you're enjoying what you do.
I do very much enjoy it. It's a passion. It really is a way of life for me. But people that have, and you're right, people that have any type of job today in this economy, whatever, they face a certain amount of stress. Exercise is a great reliever of stress.
And isn't it true, and I might be wrong, but when we're under stress, our body produces chemicals that are inflammatory.
Yes.
And that's, look at our population. We've got heart disease, inflammatory. Joint pains or inflammation. You hear that word inflammation and it's sort of like, what the heck is that? Well, it's really like your body attacking itself because of stress hormones.
It's 100% correct in what you're saying. And when we consider that the United States public is 66% overweight as of the latest statistics that were released just 2 or 3 weeks ago.
So it's over 50%.
Yep, 66% overweight. Really, we're facing an epidemic of people that are developing, cardiovascular disease, diabetes, different type of ailments that as they age is going to present more and more problems.
Right.
And one of the things that we could do, obviously, to help avoid that is to stay trim, watch what we eat, enjoy a very healthy lifestyle. And it's all about, as I said earlier, bodies in motion, just from a fact of getting up, taking a walk, walking your dog, putting groceries away. All these things add up. Parking your car farther away in a parking lot to walk to a store, taking a flight of steps instead of taking an elevator.
Yeah, because, probably even less than 100 years ago, people were moved more. Sure. I remember, I think I was listening to, it was the radio or something, but they were talking about how, the rise in obesity amongst women.
Yes.
Just the average calories expended keeping a house clean before our modern appliances, cleaning the clothes. You were really getting a workout. And now people, we have all these things, we don't even clean our own homes most of the time. But so it's kind of those day-to-day things.
Absolutely.
And we do, our lifestyles have changed. So, I think one of the things that I was thinking to get across to people tonight was, we have all sorts of people that help us in our lives to be healthier.
Yes.
Right? We have doctors or even to look better. We have our hairdressers,
Sure.
manicure. We have all these people that, give us advice and help us. And that's really a niche for you. I mean, it is, you're like a coach in a very specific way for people's lives.
Yeah, you're 100% right on that, because as a personal trainer, you develop a relationship with an individual where the first meeting or 2 or 3, you're working on breaking down the wall to get to know that person. And during a period of time, a relationship develops where you can almost refer to it as a personal coach, because you know what that person needs to be successful. My job is to motivate that person to somehow break through that plateau that they may have faced for years and to find a secret as to how they could accomplish that. And that gets hard.
Mm-hmm. And you probably observe maybe even changes in other areas of their lives, too.
Absolutely. When someone really has taken on the program and they start to exercise, they feel much more energetic, they're much more motivated. Even their mood, their ability to cope with everyday life.
Their job.
That's
causing them stress.
Yeah, now has changed. They're able to face the day with a much more positive outlook. And even some of the work studies that have been done show an increase in work productivity due to exercise being performed.
Exactly. And, you know, in some countries it's even encouraged to have exercise, you know, even just getting up and moving around throughout the day.
Absolutely. And
right.
again,
because it leads to increased productivity and less illness amongst the workforce.
And it just goes back to, again, getting some calories burned, watching what we're eating.
So watching what we're eating. Now, you also are certified to a degree in nutrition. You do nutritional counseling.
Yes. Nutritional counseling is one of those areas through the American College of Sports Medicine that you could perform a certain amount of counseling based on using government standards. And the latest government standard is called MyPlate.com.
Right, it's not the food pyramid anymore.
Right.
Which we all know got us fat.
Right, right.
We load up on the carbs. Right? It's kind of like all the stuff now that they're telling us is good for us. It's like we have to invert the pyramid, I guess.
Things have changed.
Right.
So with the advent of My Plate, as a consultant that I do, I direct clients to the use of that website along with the fact that they will keep a food diary for me. And that's a big part of nutritional counseling because when a person starts to write down...
Oh, it's amazing the things we pop into our mouths and just, it's like the invisible calories.
And when they
and a
realize...
cookie has got like 100 calories. You can like just pop 10 of those without thinking about it.
Sure. When they realize what they're eating...
No, well, it is. Once you get started...
It's very...
Because sugar is addictive.
Oh, well, sugar right now, that is
big deal,
what
right?
we're really focused on right now. What sugar is doing to our bodies and long-range effect that it could have in certain areas, certain types of cancer and the like. But
there even like all kinds of cancer.
Yes.
The sugar-cancer connection is large.
But the truth being is that once a client starts to write down on a daily basis, and what I ask for is, tell me what exactly you're eating. Be truthful with me. Because if you don't tell me, I'm not going to be able to help you.
Now, do you find people have a hard time with that, Gary?
Absolutely.
It's like they're like, you can see the potato chip grease on their face, and you're like,
absolutely.
And you're telling, I never eat chips.
Well, the telltale sign is this: if I've been working with a client for a couple of months and they haven't lost weight,
right,
and there's no medical condition for me to worry about, and I'm looking at their food diary, and it's showing me that they're eating properly. Well, guess what? Something's wrong. So we're going to start.
It's nocturnal eating. It's like sleepwalking.
Yeah,
they don't realize they're doing it.
We're going to start to question, or I'm going to start to question. Hey, what's going on with your eating? Is this 100% correct? And there's a fine line because you don't want to get to the point of where you're interrogating.
Well, yeah, and
person.
People get defensive.
Absolutely,
especially if food is in like an emotional.
Right.
Because food, I think, is a drug for a lot of people.
It is. It's a comfort
thing.
Right. Especially
they turn to food. It's like how some, people with drinking and smoking. Food is a crutch for a lot of people, just like other things are to others.
Absolutely.
So, and I think it's like, let's just be honest. If it's an issue, it's an issue, and you want to do something about it, right, Gary? So you're there to kind of really encourage them. It's okay. You know, you don't have to hide it. Come out.
Be honest. Tell me what you got going on. Let's take a look at it, and then we can make some corrections. If you're having too many carbohydrates, We're going to substitute that out with some protein, which will keep you fuller, longer. We're going to take a look at your fats to see what you're consuming.
Because everyone is different. Their metabolic profile, you could say, is different. And so it's not like this, my plate is, not everybody's going to have the same amount of vegetables on their plate, right?
That's 100% correct. And what gets tricky is how you figure out what each individual needs.
And that's your job.
That's my job.
And I think that because, we all know people who, I'm on a diet, you feel bad for them. They really, truly are trying to lose weight, and it just doesn't seem to be working.
Yeah. And what has happened a lot of times with that is that they're missing out on one key factor that I'd love to share with you.
Sure.
And that's called water.
Oh.
The more water that we intake, in that old rule of thumb.
Yeah, what is it? We're supposed to drink like 3 64-ounce.
Well,
maybe you spend all your time in the ladies' room or men's room. Yeah.
Well, there's 2 rules of thumb now that we look at. One is that we want the average weight client to strive for 64 ounces of water intake per day.
A lot of water.
That is.
So.
And then there's the other rule of thumb that was recently touted in many mainstream type of conversations, where you take a person's weight and you divide it by 2, and that is the number of ounces of water that a person should drink.
So what do you think?
Well, the fallacy of the latter part that I gave you is a person that weighs, say, a couple hundred pounds, they're going to find it very hard to consume 100 ounces of water a day. So I promote 64 ounces of water, 8 ounces of water a day.
And now that's water. It's
that's
not
water.
coffee.
That's not coffee. That's not tea.
Or diluted juice or, heaven forbid, soda.
No, because of the big
soda
sugar
word.
Yes.
Soda's bad.
Yeah, we want to try.
And those vitamin waters. It's not those either.
Well, one of the things about...
Or is it?
One of the things when you look at the nutritional counseling end, and anyone could be aware of this by just looking at the label on a vitamin water or on whatever. If you just take a look at the first ingredient on that label, the first ingredient always signifies that is the largest proportion or amount of substance that is in that drink or food or whatever.
And is that's by weight or volume or
by volume and by size, by serving size.
Okay.
So let's say, for instance, if you looked at a bottle of whatever, and the first ingredient in it was sugar, we know it's a problem immediately.
And is that the case? Because I don't consume, flavored waters. Is that do you find that to be the case? There's a lot of sugar?
In a lot of cases,
and
it
sugar,
most definitely is.
Meaning fructose?
Fructose, anything with a toast on the end of it involves sugar. So you need to be careful with that. Excess sugar, not to get too technical, is stored in what we call the adipose tissues of our body as fat.
And that's the fat.
Yeah, exactly. So the more
because that's our energy stores for our body.
The more sugar that we take in, the more fat storage. Of course, we do need carbohydrates.
And that's kind of like that instant energy.
Yes, because that's going to give us our energy kick. And the protein end of it will sustain our energy. So everything has to work together.
Right.
Some of these unfortunate diets that we've seen in the last 10 years.
Well, first of all, there's so many of them all the time. You have to wonder, where's the science behind it?
Right. And certain diets that have promoted just eating 100% protein, the way that I look at that is this. A diet is really not a diet. It's a food modification program.
Well, I like that because, diet is, people think they're being deprived.
Absolutely. So the way an individual needs to look at this is if they go to a trainer or they go to someone and they're given a food modification program, the first thing that they should ask is this: would I be able to sustain this program for life? And if the clear-cut answer is no, then that food modification program is not going to work for you. For instance, if you came to me and I said to you, and there was a famous diet that was in the last 5 years, said, all we want you to do is eat protein, and you're going to
Right.
lose weight. Well, yeah, you're going to lose weight, but once you go off that diet and go back to a normal way of eating, you're going to gain that weight right back
And,
plus.
You know, and I've known several people that were on that diet that we won't name, but
Sure.
and that is exactly what happened. And it almost became, for some of them, they became so fixated on the foods that they couldn't have
Absolutely.
that once they reached their goal, they just, you know, it's like a feeding frenzy on the. So your approach, Gary, it's sounding like sort of not too gradual of a shift to really get people to look at food in a way that's food is to sustain us physically and it is pleasurable,
Absolutely.
but we shouldn't be using it for its purposes other than what is intended.
Absolutely.
Right.
When we think of what's happened with food also.
It's all just stuff out of a box. You could eat all day long.
Right.
And not even have to cook or anything.
And the other big problem that we have now is the shelf life of food has been extended through preservatives. Mm-hmm. And the preservatives, let's face it, there's been many studies that have been done that indicate to us that preservatives to
Anything that's butylated,
Right.
you really don't want to be consuming it.
You want to run from
Absolutely.
it as quickly as you can. So my approach is this. We're going to set up a consultation with regards to nutrition being, we're going to take in carbohydrates, we're going to take in protein, we're going to take in fats.
Do you go into people's pantries, Gary, and like yank stuff out and
Haven't had to do that.
right? But or do you go shopping with people sometimes too in the food store?
We'll set up a plan for them, or I'll set up a plan for them where we'll say, okay, let's focus on, we're talking about protein. What can we eat in protein that would be good? For instance, chicken. My wife always jokes with me. She says, I've been on a diet of chicken for the last 20 years. But, you know, we look to see what would be good and healthy for that person. And the other thing that I would like to do with an individual is to make sure that every now and then that they could enjoy some food that they like.
I mean, that's what it is. You know, food is pleasure. I mean, well, let's look at it, food along with anything else. There's lots of things in life that are pleasurable. And we don't do them 24/7. You know, it would be destructive.
You're 100% right.
Right.
So with that in mind, a person understands that, okay, look, I don't have to stick to this so rigid of a modification program that I'm not going to enjoy myself. And we're not only watching the scale, because it's not all about pounds.
Well, that's another thing. People are fixated on that. And muscle weighs, is that true? I mean, we hear that muscle weighs more than fat. You know,
that is-
when you give your weight and it's a lot, you know, well, muscle weighs more than fat.
I've heard that used a lot of times.
But that is true, isn't it?
It is true. But, you know, when we look at that and we say, okay, here's the components of feeling better. Yes, you know, weight loss is nice, but generally, if you're working with a program with a qualified trainer, they should be asking you, how are you feeling generally? How are your clothes fitting? How are your moods? How are your abilities to get along during the day?
Are you coming home from work tired?
Right.
Right.
Do you have that 2 o'clock slump in the afternoon where you want to take a siesta or a nap?
Like a pot of coffee.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or do you need that caffeine fix? And if the answers to those questions are yes, well, something's wrong.
Oh.
So we study all that and we try to make modifications.
And so you think that's a dietary, a lot of that is diet?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So
There's no
is that
doubt.
like blood sugar levels and things like that, Gary?
Sure. I'm sure you've had this happen where your blood sugar could either rise or drop, whatever.
Yes, I do.
And the first thing you're looking for is anything that you could consume.
You would eat paper.
Right.
Yeah.
And sometimes, unfortunately, that's what we have to do to get us back before we pass out or have that very...
You just get lightheaded. Yeah.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
the dizziness, whatever. But what's happened there is that something is missing in that person's food modification program. The old plan of eating 3 times a day,
Right, that's, yep.
the new plan, and there's even some now discrepancy on the new plan of say 5 to 6 smaller meals a day, that plan is one that I stick to, certainly because you don't get hungry. You're not eating larger
Junk.
meals, and you're not tending to eat junk. And then the other side of that equation is, when do you stop eating at night?
Well, that's something very new that's come out. Maybe we could talk about that.
Sure.
That whole idea of you should stop. You should have like a 12 to 16 hour chunk of 24 hours where you just don't eat.
It's very hard to maintain that, though, for the
Yeah.
active working person or even the stay-at-home mom or whatever.
Well, especially when you're feeding young children,
Yeah.
you're just constantly eating.
It's almost unrealistic. Where the theory that I teach is, yes, try to enjoy smaller meals more frequently throughout the day, but by the time 7 o'clock p.m. rolls around at night,
Cut it.
you're pretty much done for the evening because your metabolism, the efficiency of it, now that our body is slowing down for the evening, becomes just that, slower.
And really, I think for a lot of people, it's just the opposite.
Absolutely.
Because, mom and dad come home from work and there's the kids are involved in numerous things and, it's 7, 8 o'clock and people are just sitting down to dinner.
Sure.
And maybe even then it's not a quality meal because everyone has been so busy.
Absolutely. You make a great point. Through the past 20 years, I've...
Our lifestyle is kind of contributing to our
100%.
eating less healthy.
Work hours that we're putting in. And through the past 20 years, I've had opportunity to train over 500 clients.
Wow.
And what I've noticed is that the lifestyle of people has changed tremendously. They're working longer hours, and when they come home, the kids are waiting to be fed, and it's a lot of late night eating that has really put the pounds on people.
And, we have a lot of people who work shifts.
Absolutely.
So it's, it's hard. And if you really think about, if you're working, I'm self-employed most of the time, so I can eat whenever I want to. But if you have a job, you get a half hour for lunch. That's like not enough time.
Very hard to...
And then the half hour, you got to go to the restroom and, maybe you got to go to the bank or who the heck knows.
Absolutely.
But, that's not a lot of time for people to have a... So, you would think that the midday would be the time you want to really have your big meal.
Well, what I've tried...
But then people, families want to eat together, so that's why they wait into the evening.
Some of the things that I've tried to stress to clients and individuals that are working long hours is to go back to what we used to refer to as the brown bag days. In other words, bringing your lunch to work and bringing a healthy lunch to work, so that on that half hour of time,
you're all set.
You're all set.
Yeah.
You could roll it out in front of you, for lack of better terminology.
Well, and here's an idea. I was just thinking of this. So let's say you come home and you have to, you could sort of be preparing that healthy meal, and while you're doing that, just eating a lighter version of it.
Yeah, there's so much.
So you have more leftovers for the next day.
Believe it or not,
You could just share that with your clients.
I like that idea. But, the truth of the matter is that a lot of people are doing that nowadays.
Yeah, it's good.
Their meal from today is tomorrow's leftovers also. And that's how they're beginning to become more conscious of eating properly.
And even what we eat would change because, the typical meal is stuff on a plate that's gooey, ooey, gravy, right? And we're not, you could make a nutritious meal, grains and vegetables and, some meat cut up, salads.
Sure.
It doesn't always have to be. So when you're saying the brown bag, you're not talking about the big Philly cheesesteak.
Oh, no.
No.
I'm talking about, a piece of grilled chicken, a piece of fish.
Put a knife and fork in the brown bag.
A knife and fork in there,
Right.
With, a good fruit for fiber such as a pear, an apple, that type of thing. So that you could have, a nutritious lunch, and it's going to help you so much in the afternoon with your productivity.
You probably will avoid that slump.
Oh, there's no doubt. instead of running to the vending machine,
Dunkin' Donuts, or
Right.
getting and so. Can we just talk about carbs a little
Sure.
bit, because I think that's what's really hurting a lot of people, because not only does the carbohydrate get converted to a sugar in the body,
Yep.
it sort of just, I think, clogs people up, doesn't it?
It does. What happens is when we look at carbs in the form of
Complex, like processed
right
things.
Well, there's simple carbohydrates and complex carbohydrates. The ones that we want to stay away from are simple carbohydrates. For instance, donuts, white breads. Just a quick tip: when we have bread, the darker the color, generally the more nutritious it is.
Yeah.
Again, referring to the ingredients on the back of a package of bread. If
Right.
the first ingredient is wheat, well, we know that's good. Where if it's enriched flour, the nutrients have been stripped out of it.
And then put back in.
Yes.
What's up with that?
So what it is unfortunately, it's marketing, it's money, and
So you really, I think, just talking to you tonight and the other day on the phone too, you're obviously very passionate about what you do.
absolutely.
And I think with anybody who does anything, if there's not that passion, because it's really continuing education, things are changing all the time. So if you're just like, floating around and not staying informed, you're not, doing a service, as much of a service to your client.
That's a great question that you pose. With most major certifications, they require you to attain a certain amount of what's called CECs a year, continuing education credits.
Oh, okay. And is that something that you do at the school, or is that online, or?
You could do it online. You could attend any number of seminars. And what those continuing education credits are meant to teach you is cutting edge technology. What do we need to do to keep our clients in the best shape possible? So that's mandatory. For instance, with my certification through the American College of Sports Medicine, if I do not meet those recertification requirements,
you'll lose
I will lose my license. A trainer who is certified needs to carry liability insurance. If you're not certified, you cannot get liability insurance, simply because personal training is a contact sport. You could get hurt.
Your client could get hurt.
Client could get hurt,
Especially
whatever.
you have it, your gym in your home.
Absolutely. So there's a liability there. And the whole process of this certification boils down to you need to keep on the cutting edge of what's happening. Not so long ago, people thought that, again, wow, if I eat all this protein, I'm going to be great, I'm going to lose weight, I'm going to have muscles, whatever.
Right.
And to a degree, some
Until
of
the
that,
kidney stones started.
right,
Exactly.
absolutely. And
Right.
to a degree, some of that may have had some theory. But what I like to talk about with clients is what's called the apparently healthy. Okay. Getting your body, again, moving, making sure that you're eating as best as you can, and hitting all those areas and combining exercise as another segment to it.
As just a way of life.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's really that healthy alternative is with what you do, is that it really is no different than brushing your teeth or taking a shower. Or, this is taking care of our bodies, which, maybe our ancestors, it just the act of survival fulfilled that function. But now
Absolutely.
we don't really move enough.
Right.
And our food sources are highly diminished these days.
Yes.
It's hard to eat well.
Well, it's hard to eat well. It's hard to eat healthy on a budget. And why you see a lot of people turn to the lesser alternative because
It's less expensive.
it's less expensive. You could run through a drive-through at any number of fast food places.
Exactly. And, I hate to get on a soapbox, but if
Sure.
I just could divert, because if we really think about it, we are subsidizing certain farms,
Yep.
to produce certain crops that go into making these highly processed foods.
Absolutely.
And so we are paying, literally, to make people sick. And then when they get sick, we're paying to get them well.
Yeah.
So it's just the power base and how they've controlled the regulations. And we are in danger, really, of losing the ability to grow healthy food in our country today. It's kind of scary.
Well said. I couldn't say it any better. It's a vicious cycle.
Yeah.
Because from improper food to improper food intake to, just the way food is processed, it really has become...
Well, just like what you said, enriched flour. And, the flour is so much of it, the wheat is everywhere. And, they brominate it.
Yes.
Which is like a antifungal type of thing. So they can store all this wheat.
Yes.
And then, that bromine in the human body, it becomes it just is a disruptor, isn't it, Gary?
Sure. It's almost, I hate to use the word, but it's almost toxic.
It is toxic.
You know.
Well, first of all, let's face it, it's killing something to keep the wheat from molding.
Yes.
So what makes us think we should be eating it?
And exactly what you said, if an individual could just think about something for a minute, if they were to look at what they're consuming and just think about it for a minute as to how it may clog your arteries, how it may disrupt your sleep patterns. Caffeine, a big issue now in the United States. Caffeine supplements for...
Now they're for weight loss and everything.
Oh,
what's that green coffee bean thing? What's up with that? That's the new thing. Dr. Oz was pushing that. Like, what the heck?
All these theories.
Right.
But
you're going to lose 10 pounds and then go to sleep, wake up 10 pounds later because you've been up all night tossing and turning.
Right. The basic theory has always remained, if we take in less calories, caloric input versus caloric output.
It's just simple math, right,
simple
Gary?
Math. As long as there's no medical conditions, that simple formula will be successful for you.
Now, do you work talking about some medical conditions? One of which also seems to be kind of an epidemic, and I think it has something to do with the bromine connection, because the bromine and iodine, they're on the same family
level,
chemically in the periodic table. But, thyroid disease, it seems like everybody's got something wrong with their thyroid. Right. And that really can cause people to not be able to
absolutely
feel good or even lose weight, anything.
That's a big
Do you
part.
have a lot of clients who are thyroid patients?
Yes, a big part of what I do with our consultation is a potential client comes in, and we'll ask them for a medical history. And then we'll go one step beyond that. We'll want to take a look at their last, what's called chem screen, their blood work.
So you ask the client to get a blood, kind of a metabolic profile.
A metabolic profile. And not that I'm a physician, but I know enough by looking at it. And if need be, if they want me to talk with their physician, if it's cleared, we'll do that also. But we're seeing more and more clients now that have thyroid problems, that even if they were to only eat, I'll make it crazy, even if they were only to eat salad all day, they would still gain weight.
What do you mean eat salad all day?
Just for...
you mean eat good food?
Yes.
Not fluffy stuff.
Exactly.
Right.
So that condition has to be taken under control. And again...
And that must be a real challenge.
That is a very, very difficult challenge. But we're seeing more and more of that now.
Have you noticed that when people... you do tailor a program and maybe they kind of get on a roll with some weight loss, that it kind of increases, the rate of weight loss increases, or it's just really always a struggle, or everybody's different?
What I'm seeing with most people now is that once they're motivated, once they see those first few pounds come off, it really now becomes a desire to push on. The problem is, 8, 9 weeks out where they hit that plateau, where again the motivation has to start. It's almost like starting over and really saying to the client, okay, look, we've gotten this far. You've lost X amount of weight. You've done a great job.
Right. Go out and have the pizza and come back next week.
Go out, splurge a little bit, and let's regroup and tackle this and start over again. You'd be surprised how many people will do that. They'll come back with a renewed passion.
It's like a little vacation. Everybody needs a
Exactly.
break.
And from the trainer's part of it, if they're not passionate and they're, you could tell someone that is just there to be there. Where if the
Or maybe, they do have to be there and
yeah,
they don't want to be.
Right.
And that probably is a real challenge for you because it could be a matter, it truly is a matter of life or death.
and that becomes somewhat of a difficult client that you need to persuade. Hey, you're here. We're here to make you feel better, and we want you to live longer, and we want you to have a healthier lifestyle.
Yeah. Now, if people are interested in maybe having Gary help them with their goals, you have a website, Gary?
I do. It's garysfitness.com, and it's
And it's right here in Wethersfield.
right here in
which could be
Wethersfield.
more convenient, and you don't have to. There's no intimidation factor.
absolutely
Right,
not.
you're a very unintimidating guy. It's not like Arnold Schwarzenegger or Jillian Michaels. I swear, that woman scares me to death. But because really, it's not just like you want to improve. Well, and it could be. I mean, you have fitness goals. You want to improve your golf swing or your tennis game. But it really is a lifestyle choice that it's going to make you feel better. And we need, we all need a little help. Our lives are complicated and busy, and sometimes we just don't know what to do. And
Absolutely.
and if you're struggling, let's put it this way: if you're packing that extra 20, 30 plus more pounds, you got a problem, right? You need to really be honest about it and get some help. So, Gary, it was great talking to you. I feel like we could just talk all night long.
It was great being here. Thank you for the
Thank
opportunity.
you. Thanks for letting us have you on the show.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Have a good evening.
You too. Thank you, everyone. Check Gary out at Gary's Fitness.